Disclaimer: this story is strictly for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. The content explores adult themes, emotional complexities, infidelity, and psychological conflict. It is intended purely for storytelling, reflection, and creative expression purposes only. All characters and events are fictional, and any resemblance to real people, living or dead, is purely coincidental. By continuing, you confirm that you are of appropriate age and maturity to engage with such content. Sarah stood by the window, her hands loosely wrapped around a cold cup of tea. Outside, the summer sun was unforgiving, but inside, the house was colder than ever. It wasn't the temperature, it was the silence. The kind of silence that feels heavier than words, thicker than any argument, and more suffocating than loneliness itself. David, her husband, had left again that morning on another one of his endless business trips. His words had been the usual: "I'll call you when I land, take care of Ethan, don't wait up for me." Familiar lines that used to feel warm, but now were empty shells of a marriage that barely existed anymore. Sarah wasn't sure when they had stopped talking like lovers and started talking like polite strangers. Somewhere between broken promises and missed anniversaries, something inside her had hardened. What she missed wasn't just affection, it was being seen. Being wanted. Being alive. That afternoon, the only other sound in the house was the occasional creak of wooden floors and the faint hum of Ethan's music coming from upstairs. Ethan, her 18-year-old stepson, was finishing high school and spent most of his time either gaming or locked in his room. Their exchanges were limited: "Good morning, dinner's ready," or the occasional forced smile across the dinner table. Politeness, nothing more. But lately, things felt different. Over the past few weeks, Sarah had started noticing subtle changes. Ethan's glances would linger a little too long when she walked by in shorts or bent over to pick something up. Conversations had moments of awkward silence that felt charged, electric even, as if both of them could feel something beneath the surface neither dared to name. Or maybe it was just in her head. Maybe loneliness was making her see things that weren't really there. Or maybe it wasn't. Later that evening, as the orange glow of sunset spilled across the living room, Sarah walked down the hallway toward her bedroom. Passing Ethan's door, she paused. It was slightly ajar. And that's when she heard it: soft, rhythmic sounds that didn't belong to video games or music. Her heart skipped a beat. Slowly, her eyes adjusted to the dim light inside the room, and what she saw made her breath hitch. Ethan, alone, his hand moving rhythmically over himself, completely unaware that anyone was watching. Sarah froze. Shame, curiosity, and raw electricity flooded her veins all at once. She should have looked away. Should have walked away. Should have done anything except stand there, watching. But she didn't. And in that single, silent moment, everything changed. Sarah's breath was stuck somewhere between her throat and her chest. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it might give her away. The logical part of her screamed to move, to step back, to pretend like nothing had happened. But her feet refused. She stood there, eyes fixed, shame crawling over her skin, yet something deeper, something darker, held her still. Ethan's face was tilted back slightly, his lips parted, his jaw sharp and defined in the dimness of his bedroom. This was no little boy. Somewhere along the years, he had grown up. Not just in age, but in the way he carried himself now, the way he looked. And now she was seeing him, really seeing him, in a way no stepmother should. Disgust hit her like a slap, but it wasn't just at him, it was at herself. How could she watch? How could her mind even let her stand there, wanting to stay for just a moment longer? She turned quickly, pressing her lips together to stop the gasp that wanted to escape, and practically ran to her room, closing the door softly behind her like a thief in the night. Inside the room, she leaned her forehead against the door, eyes shut tight, heart hammering. Shame flooded her, but behind the shame was a heat. Something raw. Something that hadn't existed in her marriage for years. The last time David had touched her with any real passion felt like a different life. It wasn't Ethan. It wasn't him she wanted. It was attention. Desire. To be wanted by someone, anyone. And that scared her even more. For the next few days, Sarah did everything she could to avoid being alone with Ethan. She cooked quickly, stayed in her room longer, kept the TV on even when she wasn't watching it just for the noise. But Ethan was changing too. He wasn't hiding away like before. He walked through the house more confidently, his shoulders squared, his glances more deliberate now. And then, one afternoon, it happened. Sarah was folding laundry in the living room when Ethan entered, standing across from her. His eyes didn't dart away this time. They locked on hers, steady, serious, and filled with something she hadn't seen in any man's eyes for a long time, want. "I know you saw me," he said softly, his voice steady but not mocking. "I don't mind." Sarah's entire body tensed. Her breath caught in her throat, and she felt her hands tremble around the fabric she was folding. How could he say it so easily, so boldly? How could this be happening? "You should go to your room," she finally whispered, her voice barely above air. But Ethan didn't move. He smiled, slow, deliberate. "You don't really want that," he said. And with that one quiet sentence, the ground beneath Sarah's world began to shift. The words echoed in Sarah's mind long after Ethan had left the room, "You don't really want that." His confidence both terrified her and stirred something deep inside her. She hated herself for it. Hated how those simple words exposed the truth she had buried for years, that she missed being wanted, missed being touched, missed feeling like a woman instead of just someone's wife or caretaker. That night, Sarah barely slept. Every creak of the house made her flinch. Every passing shadow across her bedroom door made her heart beat faster. Her skin felt hot with guilt, shame, and a strange, sick anticipation. What was happening to her? By morning, Sarah decided to act like nothing had happened. She made coffee, fixed her hair, even put on a little mascara for the first time in weeks. Maybe if she looked normal, she would feel normal again. Maybe she could forget that moment between them like a bad dream. But forgetting wasn't an option anymore. Around noon, as she was chopping vegetables for lunch, she heard footsteps behind her. Before she could turn, she felt it, a hand gently brushing over her shoulder. It wasn't accidental. It was deliberate. Slow. Warm. Sarah's body stiffened, but she didn't pull away. She couldn't. "You deserve better than him," Ethan whispered, close to her ear, his breath sending a trail of goosebumps down her arm. The knife slipped slightly on the cutting board. "Don't," she managed to say, her voice shaking, though she wasn't sure if she was saying it to him or to herself. But Ethan didn't move away. His hand slid from her shoulder down to her elbow, light but electric. His touch wasn't forceful, it was confident, controlled, knowing exactly how it made her feel. And it terrified her that he did know. "You've been sad for so long," he murmured, his fingers ghosting over her skin, sending chills across her body. "I see you, Sarah." 3 words. I see you. Words David hadn't said in years. She spun around sharply, forcing herself to break the contact. Her chest was heaving, heart pounding like she'd just run a marathon. "This isn't right," she hissed, barely able to meet his eyes. "I'm your stepmother." "And I'm not a kid anymore," he shot back, his tone gentle but firm. "I know what I want. And I know what you want, too." For a heartbeat, they stood like that, both breathing hard, inches apart, the air between them thick with everything that should never be spoken aloud. Without thinking, Sarah's hand lifted and pressed against his chest, intending to push him away. But instead of pushing, her fingers curled slightly, holding him there. And then it happened, the kiss. Slow. Gentle at first, almost testing, almost afraid. But when neither of them pulled away, it deepened. It was wrong. It was dangerous. But it was real. Sarah sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the floor as if the answers to her guilt were hiding between the cracks of the wooden boards. Her lips still tingled from the kiss they had shared in the kitchen, and her fingers could still feel the shape of Ethan's chest under her touch. She felt sick with herself, ashamed beyond words. But what scared her most wasn't the shame, it was the way her body still wanted more. For the rest of the day, she avoided Ethan. She cooked dinner like nothing had happened. He sat across from her at the table, silent but watching. His gaze burned into her skin, steady, unwavering, as if daring her to look up. But she didn't. She ate quickly and left, locking herself in her bedroom the moment she was done cleaning up. But desire is a traitor. It doesn't listen to logic or shame or titles like stepmother. It gnaws at you in the quiet, in the hours after midnight, when the whole world is asleep and the only thing left awake is the ache deep inside your chest. The soft knock on her door around midnight felt like thunder. Sarah sat up instantly, pulse racing. She didn't have to ask who it was. She already knew. Slowly, the door opened, revealing Ethan standing there in nothing but sweatpants, his chest bare, his expression calm, unafraid, like he had already decided what he wanted, what he needed. "I can't stop thinking about you," he whispered, his voice steady but filled with something raw, something vulnerable beneath the surface. Sarah wanted to tell him to go back to his room. Wanted to scream at him to leave her alone before they ruined everything. But no words came. She just stared at him, wide-eyed, frozen, with guilt and want battling inside her head. He stepped closer. The door creaked softly as he closed it behind him. "I'm not trying to hurt you," he said, searching her face, almost begging her to believe him. I don't know how to stop wanting you." The words cut through her defenses like a blade. "I'm your father's wife," she whispered, voice breaking. "And he doesn't even see you," Ethan whispered back. "Not like I do." Tears blurred her vision. She hated herself in that moment, hated how his words made her feel warm and seen and alive again. And in that storm of emotion, that wild mix of betrayal, desire, loneliness, and aching need, she let go. He leaned down, and this time, she met him halfway. Their mouths collided in a way that wasn't sweet anymore. It was desperate, hungry, almost angry with everything they had both been denying. Clothes slipped away, forgotten, until there was nothing left between them but skin and all the years of loneliness they carried. As dawn crept in through the curtains, Sarah lay awake, tangled in sheets she could never look at the same again. Everything had changed.